Welcome back to the studio. So I have with me Dr. Yinka Oyegbile, who will be joining us via Zoom, and we will be having this discussion together with Dr. Yinka. So good to have you
Good
join
morning.
us.
Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us at this hour.
Thank you.
All right, so just as
I hope I'm clear.
All right. So just as we've seen in the report, flood. You know, year in, year out, we keep having issues of flood. I mean, in some areas, once the rainy season approaches, there's this fear of flood and the impact it has on properties, on lives, and on the country in general. So now I want to ask you, Dr. Yinka, are you satisfied with how the federal government are handling this flood issue? Are you satisfied? I mean, we've seen the committees come together to do one or two things, to help make sure that this year the flood cases are very, very much minimized. But are you satisfied with the steps they are taking?
Well, I'm far from being satisfied. And first of all, I must even tell you that the issue of flood, except in a country like ours, where everything points at the federal level, should not be the issue. Is not the federal government directly that should be handling the issue of flood. What the federal government should be doing should be to coordinate, to give direction. The issue of flood should be principally a state affair and local government affair. As you know, it was as if when this topic was being chosen, whoever decided about it had some premonition. Because this afternoon, I was supposed to be in the studio. I was already on my way. As I say, I live in Northern. I was already on my way. I got halfway, and everywhere was flooded. I mean, my car had to literally turn into a canoe if I were to get to your office. So I had to abort the trip that, look, I can't come again because everywhere is flooded. Why? It is not as if flood is not a new thing. And even in the, as we say, in the most developed country or in a saner society, that they still have issue of flood. But in our own case, the problem is that it is only when the rains are coming that we are prepared. In the last few months, the Lagos state government, the Ogun state government have been telling people that they should clear their canal and all that. But even the state government itself, some of the canals that have been cleared or some of the drains that have been cleared in the cities have not been, the debris that have been cleared and have not been lifted away. So the rain comes, it washes back into the gutter or the canal, and then we have that same problem. Also, as citizens, we also have our own problem. People are driving or people are in their homes. When it is raining, they bring down their refuse and pour it into the rain and expect the water to wash it to where I don't know. So as citizens, we must also be responsible. But on the part of the government that clears the drain, that, for instance, in Lagos, there's an office of drainage clearance and all that. What is that office doing? When the drainages are cleared, who comes to evacuate what are cleared from there? If you come to Abule Egba side, Agege and the rest of them, you see some of these drainages have been cleared. You see silts, cakes, styrofoam cases and all that littering everywhere. When they were cleared, they were left at the bank of the gutter to say maybe they want it to dry. 2-3 days after these things have dried, nobody comes to clear them. And then the rain has come, the rain today now will wash them back into the drains, and then everywhere will be blocked. I wish I took pictures. As I told you, my vehicle almost turned into a canoe today.
Wow.
So I was determined to come to the studio, but halfway I had to abort it. I said, no, it's better you stay alive than enter this and
Of
your car is
course.
flooded away. I mean, so
Yes.
government has to come to terms with trying to do all what it needs to do.
All right. So the federal government also made mention of the fact that 31 states are to experience severe flooding from April to November this year. Yes. And just as you mentioned, one of the causes of this flood is the drainages. I mean, people just litter their refuse wherever and it gets to the drainage and it blocks it. But again, one of the one area as well that was pointed out to be a cause of this flooding is the poor urban planning. So there have been issues of houses being built on a drainage pathway, you know, and which has now become like an issue for the state and even the nation at large. What do you think would be, I mean, I don't know, these houses are already built, but I think some conversation also came up about the tendencies of some of these houses being demolished because to, you know, help eradicate this whole flooding issue. Do you think that's the right step to take in helping out this issue?
Yes, you know, there was an article I read in the Punch, I think, during the week, which says that Nigeria destroys more than it builds. And the argument of that writer is that Nigerians, you allow people to build. And when they finish building, it is when you now discover or you now say that they are building on the right of way of flood and all that. In all new settlements in everywhere in the world, why is it that we don't have master plan? And where we have master plan, the master plan is distorted. You have people buying swaths of land, they call it estates, and when you get to that estate, they plan where they are going to build houses, but nobody thinks of flood, nobody think of gutter, nobody think of roads and all that. So in such a system, you have a way that the roads are so narrow and very compacted. What is the the state planning authority, the physical planning authority? Lagos State has what it calls so the state government has to make sure that when there is a new settlement, people are the planning authority must first get there, chart out the lane and the plan that look, this is where houses will be, this is where shops will be. For instance, now go to what used to be called GRA Ikeja. In the 70s, 80s, and the 60s, when it was mapped out, it was basically residential. But go there now, what has happened? The GRA in Ikeja has been turned into commercial. You have hotels, you have clubs, you have eateries, and so on. People have left the place, and the facilities have not been improved upon. There are no gutters, no nothing. GRA Ikeja. GRA is government reserved area. That's the full meaning. But go there, it has become more or less like an urban slum or urban jungle. Yes, you have hotels there, you have everything there, but when it rains, there are no gutters, there are no nothing, everywhere is flooded. Why should the government preserve a place that you have said is meant for residential? You now have hotels, you have clubs, you have eateries, you have hospitals, you have everything there. Is that the way? Was that the original plan? No. Nigeria, we don't stick to original plans. And when new towns are developing, even Lekki that every one of them they are running to now, it is already becoming a ghetto because there are no roads, there are no gutters, everybody is just building. We build very large multi-houses, no parking space. Someone wants to turn a piece of 2 plots to a supermarket or a club, there are no parking spaces. We just allow everything to go like that. Of course, that will open the hours to flooding. And we have been talking about climate change, climate change. People think climate change is just all gas, that people are just speaking grammar. This climate change will happen to us. Recently in Dubai, which is said to be a desert, there was rain and the airport was flooded. Have you ever had that? No. It is an issue of climate change because things are changing. Even in Nigeria now, this is May. Rain is supposed to have started around February or March, but the rain is just falling in scattered. For instance, now, the one that fell today, see the kind of flood it brought. So the government itself has itself to blame. And when we blame citizens because we are part of it. But in all honesty, every authority rests with the government. I'm just a private individual. If my neighbor is pouring his or her debt into the gutter and I appeal to him or her and say, no, don't do this, he might tell me, what is your business? But if there's an authority that you can report to, the authority comes and lock that house or find something to do with the person. He or she will not do it next time. But because we know that nobody does anything, we all leave it and say, it's not my business. But what is not my business eventually becomes our business because we all travel in the flood. At this time now, cars will get spoiled because cars will enter flood. Then in the flood, there are so many debris that will come. You have nails, everything coming in, and then your tire gets deflated. So the government must come clean, must be ready to ensure that anybody building on its on the right of way of water or on flooding plain, the house should be brought down. And we must also say this: Lagos has tried that, but it is not working because even those who are in the building or physical planning ministry, they are compromised. Lagos says if you want to pull down a building, you must take permission. If you want to put up a building, you must bring the plan. Are these being adhered to the letter? I don't think so. Because I see building coming up everywhere in Lagos, and then they will put stop work. 2-3 days later, you pass there, it is wiped off, and work is continuing. So who gave them the go ahead to continue the work? So government must be ready to enforce its own laws.
All right, so looking at long term, what can be done on the long term to make sure that at some point, I don't know if flooding can be eradicated completely, but at least let's say looking at a long-term solution to minimize the rate of loss of properties, you know, and the impact it gets to have on the people in general. So let's look at it on a long-term solution.
Okay. In the long term, what the government needs to do is to wake up, get its act together. The enforcement units in the Ministry of Physical Planning and the Ministry of Environment, those ones must be up and doing. This is the time that they must put their hands on the plow. It is not a time for them to look. In all honesty, sometimes you have to be in search of a better world. You have to be wicked Or maybe let me put it in Yoruba, you have to be an odaju, you have to be firm. Laws must be maintained. Look, if a house is being built in a wrong place, don't go and be begging and say, he has spent so much money, let us leave him. No. Why? Who gave him or her the go ahead to build in that place in the first place? So people must come with their approved plan. The government must be able to look at it that, look, on this channel, you are not supposed to build here. In fact, immediately foundations are being laid. That is the time to enforce all these laws. That's the best time to make sure that this thing we don't go into sentiment. Because at the end of the day, a man may build his house, and they'll say, oh, maybe he's a retiree. Oh, he has all his life savings is gone because the government has demolished it and government will not give him another place. The way to go about that is, if there is a new settlement that is growing, we have professors of regional and urban planning. We have professors who are professionals and so on who are good physical planning officials. We have architects, we have all of them in abundance in Nigeria. It's only that we are underutilizing them. Everywhere there is a new settlement, the government must go there, chart a plan that, okay, this is where houses will be. There must be a stretch back. There must be gutter here. There must be this there. You find that abroad. And that is why the issue of flooding is what they usually have there is what they call flash flooding. The flood comes when it's rainy. In the 5-10 minutes, when the rain is over, especially if it is an heavy rain, in 5-10 minutes when the rains are over, the roads become clear. But in our own situation, no, because people build on the drainage. People want to buy plots of land, they take them to a place that is near the river or on the floodplain, and because it is cheap, they pay for it, forgetting that the money that you use to purchase the land, you are going to spend more on it. So, to answer your question in one sentence, government must be ready to wield the big stick to make sure that people don't violate the law. Even if it is Banana Island, where they said the richest men in Lagos are, if there's any house that is built on a floodplain should be brought down. That is it. That's the best way to solve it. There's no sentiment.
Dr. Yinka, we trust and we know that the authorities handling this issue are definitely listening to us, and we hope they would also do what is needed to be done.